Good evening, and welcome to the Wednesday, December 7th legislative meeting of the Penfield Town Board. Would everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. May I ask the town clerk to call the roll?
Cinti?
Here.
Drawe?
Here.
Kohl?
Here.
Lee? Here. Ockenden?
Here.
Thank you very much. We have several communications and announcements, so we'll get started right away. We'll start with our town clerk.
Okay, thank you, Madam Supervisor. The 9th annual menorah lighting event at Schelferberger Park in the Four Corners of Penfield will be held Tuesday, December 20th at 5:15 p.m. All are welcome to attend. There will be donuts, potato pancakes, which are also known as latkes, menorahs, and gifts for those attending, and I hope to see you there. Also, I want to mention that the school tax collection has now ended. Any unpaid taxes have been re-levied to the upcoming town and county tax bill. The Monroe County Treasury is currently preparing the town and county tax bills, and the hope is that the bills will become available on Friday, December 30th. That's what I have.
Thank you very much. Councilperson Ockenden.
Thank you. I do have one announcement tonight. It's a reminder about our winter parking restrictions that are currently in effect. It began on November 15th and runs to April 1st. There's no on-street parking of any vehicles on all roads and shoulders, including our highways, between the hours of 2 a.m. and 7 a.m. This is pursuant to New York State V&T Law 1660, Subdivision 8, again, November 15th through April 1st. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilperson Drawe.
Yes, I just have one announcement. Thank you. And this is regarding the holiday schedule closings a couple times at the Penfield Library. From Saturday through Monday, December 24th through December 26th, the Penfield Library will be closed. And again, on Sunday, January 1st, 2023. So any questions, you can call 585-340-8165. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilperson Kohl.
I have two announcements. One more about closing. The town offices will be closed Monday, December 26th and Monday, January 2nd. And this came in my box yesterday. It's come in a lot of people's boxes today, in mailboxes. But the Penfield Rec 2023 winter program has arrived. And you may start registering for classes on December 12th. So if you didn't get this, go to the website, in the rec department website. You can see the same thing. But everybody should be getting them, and there's a lot of good things there. And I hope you'll consider joining some of the programs and look at the activities that are coming up in the near future.
Thank you very much. Councilperson Lee.
Good evening, everyone. This Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., the town of Penfield will be hosting its holiday blast. And there'll be sleigh rides, cookie decorating, and much more fun. So hope you will join. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just have a few announcements. The first is that for those who visit our town hall, you can come and see our lovely, beautiful holiday decorations. The Creative Gardeners of Penfield spent all of Monday decorating the rotunda in the town hall. And you'll also notice a tree there. It'll be lit hopefully this week. And we want to thank Dave Woodward of Woody Acres for his donation of the tree. Thank you.
And the Hanukkah decorations.
And the Hanukkah decorations. Thank you very much. Also, our festive season continues in the Four Corners. As promised, we do have holiday decorations this year. In the Four Corners, you will see some lighted garland posts. And then the Rotary, Penfield Rotary, again, donated and decorated a tree for us. Next year, we hope to build upon our decorations with a taller tree, kind of in proportion to the district. But we really thank the Rotary for their efforts to bring the festive spirit to Penfield. Thank you. And lastly, many people were able to join us this morning for the unveiling of our Penfield Wall of Heroes. I'm hoping we have pictures from the dedication today. As some of you know, we are trying to actively honor our servicemen and women who are currently serving in the military. And so we picked the community center to hang the photographs of people that are actively serving. The idea is that we thought the community center was really the perfect spot because of the foot traffic going by. And if you know someone who is currently serving in a branch of the military and you would like to honor them on our Wall of Heroes, please visit our website for more information to download an application form and submit a photo. We would love to expand the number of people honored in Penfield. So thank you again for everyone who helped, particularly the American Legion Post, for helping to get this project off the ground, and to Supervisor Drawe for bringing this idea, Councilperson Drawe, for bringing this idea to the community. Thank you very much.
It's a beautiful event. You did a wonderful job with it, and so did the Raymond.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone who came today. It really was a wonderful celebration. That concludes our communication and announcements. We have several public hearings this evening. I believe we have 4, which might be a record for us. I don't think I've done more than 3 at one time. So we will have our public hearings, and then we will open it, go into our public participation session immediately following. So would the town clerk please tee up the first public hearing for us?
To consider an addition to a previously approved chiropractic office at 1801 Penfield Road, located in the Four Corners zoning district. The legal notice was published in the Webster Herald on November 23rd, posted on the town website and town clerk bulletin board. 18 postcards were mailed.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Ivers.
As we've discussed at previous work session meetings, the applicant is seeking approval for what I would call an expanded conditional use permit and site plan approval associated with the building addition. And I'll just bring up for everybody's memory, this is the proposed addition here on the rear side of the building, and I'll bring up an architectural as well. The proposed addition, you'll see it, I'll sort of pointing to it here, is proposed to create a big open space needed for physical therapy, exercise, and treatments.
Carrie, may I interrupt? Is the applicant here today?
The applicant is here.
Would you mind coming right up to the microphone? It just makes it easier if we have a question. Sure. Thank you very much.
So my understanding is the use of the space is it's going to be just one big open room needed to accommodate physical therapy treatments that the practitioners affiliated with that practice will be administering.
Thank you very much. Before I open it up for public comments, I would like an opportunity for board members to ask questions. And even before we do that, would you mind stating your name and address for the record? And maybe you could even just give a very brief description of your business.
Sure. My name's Michael De Niro. My address is 207 Rutgers Street in Rochester. I have been a general contractor for about 35 years. My current company is called Pasivo Construction. Previously, it was Newcastle Home Construction. And I have pretty much focused on custom homes with a few smaller commercial projects in the past.
Okay, thank you. So you're representing the chiropractic office.
Well, I'm the developer, I'm the builder. And yes, I'm representing the chiropractic office.
Okay. Great, thank you. Are there any questions by town board members about this project?
No, because we would expect the chiropractor to be the person to answer the questions that the supervisor was just mentioning to you.
Sure. The chiropractor is my son,
Okay.
Okay.
so I can probably answer most of the questions.
Well, you heard what Ms. Ivers said about the room and what it was meant to be. Is there
Correct.
anything further that needs to
No,
be
I can
said?
give you a few more details.
Great, thank you.
The building space would be used for classes. No more than 8 to 10 people at a time. The timing for those classes would probably be first thing in the morning and then like after hours, after 5 o'clock. As was mentioned, they're looking to accommodate their client base by having a space to show exercises and like at-home treatment that their patients will be able to do to incorporate that with the treatments at the office. And then I know they're also looking at possibly, they'll have some workout equipment in that room. So they're looking at possibly putting together a program for seniors, like silver sneakers or something to that effect. So the name of the company is Mount Hope Chiropractic and Wellness. So it's more than chiropractic.
Are there any changes in your hours of operation with this?
Right now, the office that they're running starts at 8 o'clock. So there might be a class prior to that.
So something starting at like 7:30 or
Yeah.
7 a.m.?
Yep.
I'm assuming in the morning.
Yes.
Okay. Are you adding any additional employees to this?
Right now, there's 5 chiropractors,
Okay.
and there's 2 massage therapists in their current location. I would imagine, well, I know that that's about the number of people that would be working out of this office.
And then, are you feeling that the parking is adequate if you add on this and add in classes?
Yeah, that's a good question. Right, we have in our proposal 20 spaces. I've already spoken to the owner of the insurance company to the east, and she said that if we needed additional parking, we could have additional parking in her space. She has 8 to 9 spaces, and that would be after 5 o'clock. I didn't connect with the manager of the real estate company next door, but they have a lot of open spaces, and I've met with them in the past, and I don't have an answer on whether they would allow us, like maybe have some of the employees park there temporarily, but they have a lot of open spaces, even when they have meetings. They had a meeting today, and more than half their parking lot was open.
Okay. And I will say that I forgot to mention, if people want to participate too, they can always call in 340-8771 or reach us through our website at penfield.org. I just want to put that out there for when we do turn it over to public comment, that they have ways to contact us. Councilperson Drawe, Ockenden, anything?
Yeah, I actually do have a couple questions, Michael. I'm sorry, I wasn't here for the preliminary discussions, so I may be asking some questions that
No
are
problem.
more from the beginning. This addition, is it one floor, or is there actually a second floor in that addition?
No, it's 1 floor.
Is it a cathedral-type ceiling, or is it
Yeah.
storage, or?
10 to 12 feet ceiling height.
Okay. It looks like it lines up with the height of the home, the original
Yeah.
building?
It's real close. The ridge line.
Gotcha. Okay. And the reason I was asking is there's windows, it looks like 2 rows of windows facing Penfield Road. So that second one, is that more of a architectural?
Yeah, those aren't going to be windows.
Okay.
Those are just going to be shutters to give some symmetry.
Gotcha.
So basically an aesthetic feature to break up the wall?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Great. Thank you. That's it for the moment, but
Okay.
thanks.
Councilperson Drawe?
I wanted to ask you, as far as extra lighting, are you planning on that front of the building? Was there any new lighting you wanted to put on there?
We're going to be doing a lot of lighting. I have to admit, I don't have a lighting plan for the exterior yet, but it will be well lit. I know there's an existing frame for a sign out front,
There is?
but I don't know if the lighting on that works, but everything's going to be redone.
On the house, so additional lighting on that house?
There's lighting on the porch.
On the porch, right? Are you,
I'm open if that's something that you think is necessary. Like I said, we're going to be redoing everything in the building. So we have that option to us.
okay.
You kind of hope that people come in through Mott's Lane, that area, versus coming in off Penfield Road because, well, it's safer, for one, but that's where the road goes and lets all the back parking. You know, that's why we did Mott's Lane, kind of to
Right.
keep people from making all those turns.
I would think that after the office is up and running, people who are going to continue to, come for treatment, they'll use Mott's Lane.
Yeah. But too, you need lights because
Right.
you start
But we're
at
not-
7 in the morning, it's going to be dark.
Right. We're not going to have any exit onto Penfield Road from that driveway.
Okay.
So you do have to access it from the back?
Well, you can.
Into the building?
You'll be able to enter from Penfield Road. See, there's an arrow on the existing, we're going to be
Yep.
redoing the paving and putting signage up, but you won't be able to come back out on the Penfield Road. We'll have signs and lighting.
Okay. Carrie, do you have any concerns about parking?
We reviewed that as part of the PRC. At this time, we don't have a reason to be concerned about the parking based on the size of the building and the number of folks. To the extent that there's a potential for shared parking among neighboring property owners, that might be something we would need written documentation of so that we could reference that as part of the town board's decision-making. So if you have gotten agreement from neighboring properties, that's something that we typically like to have in writing so that it's not just oh, sure, you can use the parking, and then it's not formalized in some way. That would be one thing we'd want to look at.
Okay.
Yes. I do not see anyone online or on the telephone. However, is there anyone in the audience who would like to participate in this hearing and speak to this application? Okay, any other comments or questions by the board?
I just had one more. Maybe this is for Carrie. Carrie, does this project require any kind of historic preservation review?
It's outside of it's not included in a town historic district.
Okay.
And you know what, I have one more question. I'm sorry, Michael. Are you planning anything outdoors with the addition of this space? Does it change?
Like landscaping
Or even classes outdoors or anything like that?
no classes outdoors.
Okay, great. Again, anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this? All right, so next steps, this will actually be moved to a work session for further discussion and then to an approval, or, right?
Right.
Okay. But the board tends to discuss things at work session following a public hearing, just taking in any feedback we did receive.
Okay,
Okay?
great.
So with that, I will declare this public hearing closed, and we will schedule this for an upcoming work session. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Take care. Happy holidays. Public hearing number 2.
To allow a roofing business at 1854 Penfield Road, located in the Four Corners zoning district. The legal notice was published in the Webster Herald on November 23rd, posted on the town website and town clerk bulletin board. 22 postcards were mailed.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant here?
The applicant is here.
Okay, great. Thank you. And before Carrie tees this up for us, I do want to say if anyone wishes to speak to this application, you can be here in person. You can call us at 340-8771, or you can reach us online at penfield.org. Take it away, Ms. Ivers.
As you will recall, this is a public hearing that was carried over from last month because the applicant wasn't able to attend the initial public hearing, and then during work session, it was determined it was a good idea to reopen or reestablish the public hearing so that the applicant's information could be entered and discussion would be part of the public hearing record. The applicant is the relatively new owner of this property. The property has, my understanding is 3 residential dwelling units in it, 3 apartments. The owner of the property, who's here today, is also a resident in one of those units. Am I correct about that, sir?
Yes.
Okay. And he is the owner of a business called Daniel Roofing. Daniel was unaware of the requirements for development and opening a business in this location and installing a sign. So when we do take a look at Street View, if you drive by, you'll see that the sign was already installed. The property actually came to our attention through code enforcement because of some building material debris that was being stored in the rear yard. And so that's when our office notified him of the required approvals. And so he's been navigating that process ever since. This in the Four Corners district, the change now that there's a business being advertised at this location changes it from just a 3-unit residential structure to sort of a mixed of residential and commercial operation or commercial use. The applicants identified and requested a storage shed. I believe it's proposed to be 12 by 16. He was unable to build the shed or obtain a building permit for that until he could navigate the town board process. So he is seeking approval for that shed as well. And hopefully, I think that's hopefully enough of a summary.
Okay, great. Before I turn it over to the board to ask questions, is there anything, Daniel, that you wanted to say specific to this application?
No, I mean, it was just...
And also, I should just ask for your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Yeah, Daniel Ardeline, address is 1854 Penfield Road.
Thank you.
And it was basically just to build a shed so I could store all the material and equipment, just so it's not laying around.
Okay.
Daniel, I'm sorry, can you spell your last name, please?
Ardelean.
Thank you.
Are there any questions by board members?
We did last time. We had questions, but the problem was we didn't have, it wasn't out there for the residents that may have an interest to participate. I think we were waiting on that more than anything else, weren't we?
Okay.
So, anybody there?
So I do have several questions, but I just want to make sure that the board members have an opportunity to ask anything too. So I know that Carrie mentioned that, you had some debris around the area, some materials, building materials. Is a shed of 12 by 16 going to be able to contain everything?
Yeah, because it's basically just like leftover materials from the job, so it's not a significant amount of material, so it'll all fit.
So where do you store your materials to begin with?
Just basically on the side. I took pictures of it as well. I don't know if you have it, but it's just basically on the side of the. I have it's a big driveway in the back,
Right.
so it's kind of just there, so you can see it in the picture.
Okay. I'm just thinking that, storage of materials outside isn't necessarily preferred. So could you get them in the shed?
Well, that's why I'm trying to build a shed.
Yeah, he doesn't have one.
There's no
Okay.
shed there now.
So everything could fit in there?
Yes.
And ladders as well?
I mean, ladders are on the truck, so.
Okay. Do you have adequate parking for are there parking spaces there?
Yeah, because this used to be like a dentist office, so there's a huge, probably like 15 spot parking spot in the back. So,
Okay.
yeah, there's like a significant.
Okay. And are there dumpsters on site?
No.
What do you do with debris?
Well, debris gets, every job you go to, you get a specific dumpster per job, so all the debris gets thrown in there. I don't bring home any debris, it's just materials,
Okay.
leftover materials.
I see. Okay. Any questions from any of the other board members?
Well, to be clear, it's an office. You have an office, and you want to build a shed to put the things that when you go off and do your projects, you come back and you have something left over.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't have people coming to the,
No, people don't come to the
Right.
house.
Yeah.
It's just
Got-
for
I
me
got that.
specifically, it's to store away any
Right.
material.
just want to be clear.
Is that the spot right in the middle picture? Is that where where that,
Yeah, so I
Shed
already
will go?
had built the footing because
That's what I thought.
I didn't know of the regulations and stuff, so
so
I kind of just got it prepared until.
do we know that we're within his property lines?
Yes, we have verified that.
Okay,
He did provide a survey map showing the location of the boundary lines and then also the the location of the shed. And so I'll bring that up to you right here. This is an approximation. But and in this district, the board has the authority, but in this case, he's far enough away from neighboring properties.
Okay.
I have a question. I don't know if the town clerk or Ms. Ivers has access. I recall at the last session, we had a resident, I believe it was a neighboring business, that had voiced concerns, and I can't recall specifically what they were, but I just want to ensure that they are being addressed by the applicant and that the town board does consider them.
I think the person that came or shared
Called
some
in.
comments, they called in, and I think they were concerned about debris, the visual of storage of construction material outdoors, and its impact on the neighboring properties. Also, the actual physical garbage. There are no fences generally in those rear yards. And so if there's paper or garbage that is not contained properly, it will leave that site and potentially go elsewhere. I think just making sure that the property is maintained in a professional and way was a big concern.
Would you be willing to enter into a property maintenance agreement with the town so that we can be sure that this will be kept up, the property will be kept up?
I mean, at that moment when that neighbor called, I was doing the roof on the house, so it was windy, so some stuff was getting, flung around. That's the only reason she called. And also for the material that was in the picture to kind of just get stored away. So, I mean, I keep the property pretty clean, so the only thing is just the materials.
So it shouldn't be an issue if we said, would you be willing to agree to these conditions, right?
Yeah, I mean, what does that entail of?
So the property maintenance agreement, and I'll invite Mark to chime in here, our town engineer enters into these more often it's when a developer gets an approval to build a project or to do a major addition, they enter into a property maintenance agreement that explains sort of how the property is to be maintained. So if you're installing landscaping, the landscaping is maintained over time. If you've got fences or gates or things it's just a general summary of the conditions that are located on the property and the fact that they're going to be maintained. It's something that I think has been a long-standing practice of the town.
It's something we've incorporated with commercial businesses, and it also can incorporate if there's any special conditions by the board with that. So most of it is a reiteration of what our existing property maintenance code is already. They basically just sign the agreement, and then if the board has any special conditions, hours of operation, dumpster emptying, that type of stuff.
Snow removal.
Snow removal hours, if there's anything special about the project that would need to be incorporated, we could, supplement them into that agreement and then, have them sign it. Obviously the supervisor signs it and then that gets filed.
I have a couple of questions there, but it might be more appropriate for a work session. But what's the duration of that agreement?
It runs as long as the business is there, so it's...
And when's the last time the town has executed that type of agreement with a commercial developer?
As far as went into an agreement?
Yes.
We typically, with the planning board, pretty much every commercial property, commercial development is required to do that.
Okay.
Daniel, can I ask one other question too on this shed? Is this a pre-made one, or do we have an idea what it would look like?
Yeah, it's a Home Depot. They basically I think it comes in like 4 sections and you just bolt
So
it
it's
together.
a kit, and then we
Yeah.
pretty much see in most people's sheds that we see in a lot of.
Yeah, it's not like I'm building it myself. It's just
Backyards,
comes
okay.
pre-made.
Thank you.
Councilperson Ockenden?
How many vehicles do you have for the business, and will they be parked on site, or do you have workers that take them home, or?
Yeah, so I have 2 of my own vehicles, and then the residents that stay there, 1 each, so 3.
Okay.
So total 5.
No lifts or anything like that, or?
I have
specialized piece?
one trailer as well. So, but like I said, there's plenty of space. There's like 10, 15 parking spots.
And your intent, obviously, is to have all those rented over time, or are they currently?
Yeah, my intent, is to kind of fix up the place I'm at, and then maybe down the line, years down the line, kind of move out and rent that one out and make it fully residential.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this application? I do not see anyone on the phone or on our website. Are there any more comments or questions from board members? Okay, seeing none, then I will declare this public hearing closed. Daniel, so our next steps is that this goes right to a work session, and we discuss and review and decide. How's that? And then you can work with Ms. Ivers if you have any questions about the procedure going forward.
Okay, will I know when? Because it's getting cold, and I was planning to put the cement block down.
Can you give an
Yeah,
answer to
so
that?
on the timing, so next week, the town board decision has to happen at a legislative session, and unfortunately, because of the timing and the holidays, they'll discuss it at next work session next week, but the earliest opportunity for a vote would be January 18th. And there's no way to really change
Actually,
that.
It's the 4th, I believe.
Well, actually, that's the org meeting.
It's an organizational meeting, unfortunately, that, yeah.
We could,
Well, I mean, even with the 4th, assuming temperatures are typical January, it's not going to be adequate for you to lay concrete at that time, right? So between the 4th and the 18th, is it really a material difference?
I mean, it's Rochester weather, so it's very unpredictable, but you can still lay concrete when it's cold. I just would rather do it as soon as possible.
sure, I understand.
No, I agree with you.
I don't mind putting something on the 4th if it makes sense. I'm going to leave that to the town board and the agenda,
So-
when you set the agenda.
Okay.
I always know that, in January, there's always those 1 or 2 nicer days, so, yeah, that might be able to work. But unfortunately, we can't, until your project is approved, you can't act on it yet. Okay?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Have a good holiday.
You as well.
All right, moving on to public hearing number 3.
To consider adopting a proposed local law to amend Chapter 250 of the Penfield Town Code zoning ordinance to revise the mixed-use development regulations and modify and add additions contained in Section 250-2.2, terms defined. The legal notice was published in the Webster Herald on November 23rd, posted on a town website and town clerk bulletin board. No postcards were mailed due to this being a townwide action.
Okay, I'd also like to add to that we did also, and because this involved a committee that was originally formed a few years back, we did invite all the original committee members to view the proposed local law and to come to this meeting to speak if they so choose. So I just want to make that clear on the record. And Carrie, would you like to tee this up? Or Doug?
Sure. Actually, it's I would say the three of us are up here to answer any questions.
So the Three Musketeers, would you like to tee this up?
I was going to say it, and I stopped myself because I feel like I turned this into a comedy club.
I went there.
Okay, excellent. We thought it would be beneficial, given the size and scope of the existing regulation, to put a few slides together that provides an overview of the changes that have been made. So I think we're going to start with what stayed the same. The mixed-use development district boundaries as a whole have not been changed. No new parcels have been added in, and no parcels have been taken out. The district boundary continues to have the 3 zones, A, B, and C. Some regulations continue to apply universally across the district, and then there are still continue to be certain regulations that vary depending on what zone you're in or what zone the property is in. Maximum development densities specified for each zone remain the same as well. So mixed use as a concept isn't changing. It was more of a clarity that needed to be provided. So what changes were made? Clarified the categorization of uses within a proposed development, specifying more clearly defined the required mix of uses in each of the zones, and then moved the development requirements and the design standards that had been previously provided in the mixed-use development manual. Those have been brought into the code and codified.
And those
So-
are word for word taken?
For the most part, word for word, and if there was something in the manual that felt like it wasn't super well defined, then we took this opportunity to clarify it when we brought it into the code, if that makes sense. There were also procedural clarifications and modified the outline of the required review process so that residents, applicants, developer, anybody who's looking at the code would sort of know generally these are the steps you need to follow. Added new and modified existing definitions so that we're going to be impacting section 250-2.2, which is our terms defined for the entire zoning code. Also revised the mixed-use manual to serve as a reference and guidance document only, so that it's more of an explanation of how and why mixed-use development came to be here in Penfield, and then it gives some best practices and design examples from other places, so that if somebody was looking for some ideas, that might be an idea generator, but it's not anything related to code requirements.
Okay, and then I'm seeing in smaller letters, no longer contains district design standards or requirements. Those move to the code.
Those move to the code,
Thank you.
correct.
Okay.
From procedural clarifications, in general, the regulations were reorganized to ensure the what, how, and who of development were easier to read and understand. It specified the type and extent of the planning board's waiver ability, so that there's some parameters for the flexibility that's being offered in this district. And beyond that flexibility that's been outlined, then it would be a zoning variance would be needed beyond that. Also established the criteria for future administrative staff review. Right now, the district is just being sort of built and developed, but over time, there'll be a built environment that there's just changes in use and occupancy, and we didn't really have a system in the code to really manage that. So we decided to take this opportunity to do that. I think some of the zone-specific changes, so Zone A, the mix of uses, before the delineation was under 2 and over 2. That was a big sort of range, so we decided to break that down a little bit more. Less than 3 acres requires a minimum of 2 uses, 1 residential and 1 non-residential. 3 to 6 acres, minimum of 4 uses with at least 2 residential use types and 2 non-residential use types. More than 6 acres, minimum of 5 uses with at least 3 residential uses and 2 non-residential uses. Minimum percentage of non-residential is 20%. Minimum open space is 20%. Maximum non-residential occupancy is 25,000 square feet per use or user. In Zone B, the mix of uses, again, we further broke down the size of the development site. Less than 3 acres, minimum of 2 uses with 1 residential use and 1 non-residential. 3 to 6 acres, a minimum of 4 uses with at least 2 residential and 2 non. And then you'll see more than 6 acres, there's a minimum of 5 uses with at least 3 residential uses and 2 non-residential uses. The minimum non-residential percentage here is 10%. Minimum open space requirement is also 20% in this district. And then maximum non-residential occupancy per user is 7,500 square feet per use or user. And I guess the distinction between Zone A and Zone B continues to be that Zone A was imagined to be the more intensive mix of uses with higher concentration of potential non-residential uses, and Zone B was intended to be allow mixed use but have it be more residential in nature. And so the differences in square footage reflect that distinction. Zone C really continues to be residential only. There was no change made here. It just varies with the one unit per acre, but with the waiver could be increased to 2 units per acre. We've talked briefly a moment ago about the planning board waiver versus ZBA variance. The revised regulations maintain the district's intent to provide flexibility, but they establish clear thresholds for the planning board's range of flexibility. And then revisions outside that, outside of those thresholds would fall into the Zoning Board of Appeals variance category. The mixed-use manual was, as we mentioned, was revised. And so and I do apologize, I think we've since made a change to this, and now the preface is just a preface, it's not a chapter. So the chapter numbering here has shifted, but the draft is available on the town's website, so folks interested in seeing the revised manual certainly can take a look, but we do have an executive summary, the introduction to mixed use in the town of Penfield, best practices, and then the mixed-use boundary considerations. You'll see that there's no references to design standards or guidelines or any instructions that are regulatory in nature. This is really strictly a reference document. And that is just our town's website, and always encouraging you to be connected with us.
Is there anything else that Doug or Mark would like to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and we have obviously members of, the board, planning board here tonight, Jim Burton, AJ Hedsky, board members obviously worked closely with us on that. I think this was a good time to take a pause, look at what we've had, the applications that have come in. That was a good opportunity, the board provided for us to do that, is to step back, kind of look at the questions, concerns, clarifications that I think were needed as we move forward, that hopefully we can, make it a better document, make it, what the board, was looking for, what the committee was looking for. Initially, as we've seen some, questions, concerns that have come up with from applicants, we've taken and tried to take, those applications into, into practice or, into consideration as we went forward with those, and then worked closely with, Jim and AJ as they, work day to day on, their board works through the application. So definitely a collaborative effort to, pull it all together, reorganize it, and then, hopefully put something out that hopefully better lays the groundwork of, moving ahead with mixed use.
Thank you. Before we get started, I do want to thank the three of you, and also Jim, I see you back there, and AJ. Pete Weissar was also involved in really gathering all the experience that was received over the past couple of years and saying, okay, what really needs to be revisited and how can we make this better, right?
Yes, and I'd mention that we included Andy Sevegas, who's our zoning code aficionado in this process as well, because often he's a code enforcement official who'd be called upon to interpret discrepancies or misunderstandings in the code. So it was really good to have his eyes on this as well.
Thank you for that clarification. Again, if people want to participate in tonight's public hearing, you can speak in person, you can call us at 340-8771, and you can reach us online at penfield.org. Before I turn it over to the audience, I do want to mention that we received 2 pieces of correspondence, and I want to enter these into tonight's public record. The first is a letter we received by email from Bill and Debbie Wickham. I just want to mention that this was shared with the planning board chair, town attorney, town staff, and this was also sent to town board members for their information. I'm going to make sure that this is included in the minutes for tonight as well, and I do want to summarize it. It's a very lengthy email, but they brought up several areas of concern that I do want to read in. The Wickhams are concerned that there be a balance between what is required by the code and where there can be interpretation and discretion by the planning board. The Wickhams itemized several areas where they had questions referencing the development requirements and design standards, list of permitted uses, required amount of residential types for both zones A and B, calculation of open space, and maintenance of landscaping features. They are concerned that this moratorium went a little bit beyond what was stated and that it's adding more restrictions and complexities to applications. So I do want to put that feedback out there. The second piece of correspondence we received is from Peter Vars at BME Associates. This was also shared with everyone that I'd mentioned earlier, and this will also be included in the minutes. Peter had several questions and comments about the draft law, including the role of the original MUD committee, asking if town received input from developers, landowners, or other towns that have mixed-use development zones in their communities. He had a question about the status of the traffic study that was initiated for this district, and ensuring that there is flexibility for non-residential uses to meet constantly changing market demands. He also did outline 13 comments specifically about Section 250-5.12 about the draft code review, and wanted to make sure that those comments were taken into consideration. BME is happy to have further conversation with staff if necessary. So I did want to read that in. So thank you for allowing me that. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this
I do
application?
have someone signed up. It's Betsy Brugg, who is of the law firm Woodzoviet.
Thank you very much.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
Nice to see everybody.
Likewise.
Not a very crowded room tonight, which is kind of nice. There's the mixed-use district. It's quite a mouthful, and
Betsy,
so-
can you just identify yourself for the record?
So I'm Betsy Brugg, an attorney at Woodzoviet. I have probably over 25 years' experience in land use. I've represented all types of real estate development, including mixed-use development. Of the 4 recent mixed-use development projects, I represent 3. I have been involved with the Arbors project, Penfield Heights, and the current Pathstone project. I will say that on behalf of another property owner who I represent, I am submitting a letter on their behalf as well. I don't know if you want me to pass that to you or. I just got that this afternoon, or I would have sent it sooner.
And I'll just say that I will make copies for the board and send it out to you tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
So I absolutely appreciate the amount of work that's going into looking at updating much-needed improvements to the regulations and the manual. I can tell you that having been involved in 3 of these projects, I came into each of these 3 projects, each under different circumstances. Each of these projects was experiencing a terrible process. There were lengthy delays. I think my husband jokes that I have a permanent date with your planning board because I am here all the time. So the Penfield Heights project, for example, I was brought in after that project had already been in the planning board process for quite a number of months. They thought they were doing great working with the planning board, and were surprised to have their application denied, which, as I understand, is a very rare occurrence at the planning board, that they do not often deny applications. We came back. There was extensive redesign and work done that resulted in an approval, but that I would hope you would recognize as sort of an unusual process. The Pathstone project, I was not involved, again, at the beginning of that application process. They did consult with me on a couple issues that came up. All of the projects have had periods of delay as a result of ambiguities and questions arising out of the language of the code, what the planning board discretion is, how to define non-residential uses, how to define height, whether the planning board has authority to waive requirements, whether we require a visit to the zoning board. There have been numerous of these types of things that have come up. Clearly, there's a need for some improvement and clarification. Pathstone went through, they started their process. They went through their, I think they were in the process for a year. These processes all involve a sketch plan review, which I think is a fabulous tool. I think that one of the key issues is to go back and look at that sketch plan process and how to utilize that more effectively and successfully, because they do have a very positive sketch plan letter, which would make you think that there is a everything is, we've kind of met some minimum threshold, we're moving forward. And then I got involved because a year into the project, they get basically turned upside down with comments from the planning board after the planning board sent the plans out to the town's architectural consultant. So there's just been a lot of, they're more than bumps in the road. They're very, very big challenges that essentially every development after the home leasing project has experienced. The arbors, is much farther along. The developer is here in the audience. He's been at this for way longer than I have. He's been at this for many years. Again, also experienced a number of challenges, difficulties. Issues have come up on interpretation related to things like, requirements for lighting and just a variety of different types of issues that have also come up on that project. So nothing about any of these projects has gone smoothly. So I absolutely appreciate, and I know that Jim and AJ and the team here has put a tremendous amount of work into this. I have a number of concerns in that I do think it's important that, and I'm not saying that the staff hasn't done this, but really take the opportunity to look at what has gone wrong with some of these projects to see how we can avoid that. I have had a chance to look at the draft regulations. I have not had a chance to see the draft manual. I don't know if that's available. I've been kind of looking out for it, but I haven't seen it.
It should be on the town's website.
Okay, I did not see it. I thought I even looked today, but maybe I looked in the wrong spot.
No, you might not have. It should have been on the website. I apologize. I'll check in with website staff.
So it's really impossible to look, now having worked with these two very unique and important documents, it's impossible to look at one without the other.
Sure.
Having spoken to a number of the design professionals who have been working on these projects and stakeholders, I know that the general consensus is that not enough of an opportunity has been provided for people to really get into it, review this, understand it, comment, participate in the comment process. So I'm hopeful that there'll be some additional opportunities for input. We do feel like, I have heard that there is a desire to not extend the moratorium. I would just caution that speed is not nearly as important as getting this right, because I know that I will have to work with whatever the new regulations are, and I can tell you that I drafted a very, very lengthy analysis of all the details, lengthier than the letter from Peter Vars, for sure, but I didn't want to get caught in the weeds. I really wanted to focus kind of on the big picture and ask that the stakeholders be provided with sufficient opportunity to get comfortable with the regulations, to provide input, and to ask questions. Sometimes discussion and dialogue is necessary to really flesh out and reach kind of the best product in the end. Of course, I'm blind without my glasses here. From the developer perspective, we want, and I know the town wants the same thing, we want to encourage development. We want development also to be successful. We want to make sure that we don't have vacant retail space. We want to make sure that the way this is approached is viable, realistic. There are a lot of people who are investing a lot of time and money in trying to produce good quality development and bring that forward. Just from my experience, we hopefully don't always have to spend years in the process. We'd like to find a way that the developer approaching the town should be able to understand the applicable rules. What do we have to do to have an approvable project, and what is the roadmap to get there? What are the steps? Where's the clarity? Because that has been lacking. I think some of that, there's an effort to clarify that right now in the regulations. I personally feel that the regulations actually, while they might fix some of the ambiguities, they've actually created some other ones, and I think there's some inconsistent language used throughout. I think that there's a lot of additional restrictions. I think that actually will make things harder, not easier. and really create possibly more issues at the planning board. I think that the sketch plan process, I think it's unfortunate that there have been projects that have gone through that sketch plan and then move forward. An applicant, goes through that sketch plan process, trying to define and figure out what their project is, and then from that, they go and they, invest the time and money with their design team, kind of refining that and putting in a full application for approval. And the hope is that when you put in your application for approval, you've been given enough direction to know that you have a path forward. And what we're finding is, we're going months down the road with these applications that are filed, and you had one application denied and another one basically turned on its side. So these are situations I don't think the town wants to see. I don't think the planning board wants to see. So I think we're looking for, I'd like to see some clarity in, are there requirements for a sketch plan letter, for example? Is there some minimum information feedback that the applicant can get? Something that says, don't file your application yet if you're not ready, and as opposed to just some comments, and I guess it leaves some interpretation as to whether that's enough direction or not. So that is, I think, an important element. As I said, there's some questions about, various aspects of the code. I'm going to stay away from the specific details. I'd be happy to put that in writing, perhaps even discuss that at the planning board or when you provide another opportunity for stakeholder input. I just have to, point out that from the applicant perspective, this process that currently is in place is extremely costly. We have people spending money, tying up property on design professionals, on legal issues. The process is just taking a very long time. There are applicants who have had the kinds of non-residential uses that I think we'd like to see in these projects, but, some restaurant operator isn't going to sit around for some indefinite period of time for an applicant to get through the town's process. It's one thing to say, I'll be done in 6 months or, some finite amount, but people who have businesses can't sit around, obviously, forever waiting. They have to make decisions. If there's not a place available, they're going to go find another place, right? So we're seeing some of that. Affordable housing. So one of the 4 projects that have been proposed in the district, 2 have been affordable housing. One is the home leasing project that is already built, and the second is the Path Stone project. I know every project that I've appeared on has involved some feedback saying we are learning from the mistakes we made on the first project that we had. That aside, there's no mention of affordable housing in the mixed-use district regulations. Affordable housing is kind of a broad term, but essentially it would contribute to the diversity of housing for people of different income levels, middle-income housing, workforce housing for people who are teachers and police officers or work at the town. I mean, it meets the needs of a lot of types of housing. People with disabilities, kids in your own community who are aging out of school and will need housing, seniors. I mean, there's a lot of groups that of residents whose needs can be met through affordable housing. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan. It is considered an amenity and a benefit to the community. And if the town, in fact, wants to support and promote the development of affordable housing, I think that the code needs to speak to that and recognize the particular accommodations that might be needed as a result of various funding that is available or utilized for some of these projects. I think that the omission of affordable housing itself is a statement, and that it should be addressed in some way if you want to encourage and promote that. As for the code itself, these new percentages, the new 10% minimum non-residential in the Zone B, the mix of different uses required based on acreage and property size, all of those things, we have a lot of questions about them. I think the stakeholders have a lot of questions, developers have a lot of questions. Is this based on some kind of data or study? Where did this come from? have we really thought through whether these numbers, is there some support for why these numbers work? I have more questions than I have comments on some of those things. I know that just from my conversations and meetings at the planning board, every couple meetings, somebody says, geez, I hope we don't end up with a lot of vacant commercial space. So again, I would, just focus on, we want to be very thoughtful. From the developer standpoint, we want to build successful projects. We want to build, a great mixed-use area. The timing, again, I have some concern. I would just ask that the town board not rush to make a deadline for the moratorium, before the expiration of the moratorium. I'm not sure what the date is for the expiration. I don't know if you have that. I know it's sometime in January, but I don't know the date.
It's like the January 20th.
January 20th is the expiration.
Please don't hold me to that. It's off the top of my head, but I believe that's the date.
Okay. So I think there's some interest in getting some more comments and more dialogue, from the stakeholders and, people who have been thinking about this but have not. We really just haven't had an opportunity to really, digest the draft regulations. And again, I'd like to see the manual. I think others have been waiting to see the manual as well. I believe the moratorium itself anticipated that the draft would come out, 30 days or so after the adoption of the moratorium, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it came out just before Thanksgiving. So I think we'd like to make sure that there's enough time to really,
I want to speak directly to your comments because we have received a lot of feedback, an enormous amount of feedback, and it's very clear that we need to take more time, even though we've put in hours already.
Mm-hmm.
We do want to make it right. I think we share the same goal that we want mixed use to be as good as it can be, right? We want it
I mean,
to
I would just say
project.
selfishly that regardless of what you do, in January, February, whatever, I'm going to have to deal with whatever is here, and I just don't want to have the same we've experienced these issues before. We can learn from them, and my hope is that the process will be more straightforward, easier to understand, easier to follow, certainly more inviting and promote more development of the mixed-use district. It's a very exciting opportunity, and, there's developers who are excited to do this, but it has to be, realistic and feasible and viable and economically viable, and it has to make sense. And
I'm well aware of the fact that the holidays certainly do throw a wrench into things, and if we weren't losing so much time with not meeting and having holiday time off where everybody's wherever, that process might go a little bit differently, but I understand that we need to take that into consideration. It's my intention to leave the public hearing open, by the way.
Okay.
So, okay.
Yeah, because I do have quite a few, detailed questions, some of the use classifications and some of the, kind of language and kind of smaller kinds of things. I probably will submit a letter at some point, or I may just, reach out to Pete Weishar and kind of go through some of that with him, or, it's a little difficult to
I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
The more you can communicate that, I think the better. I thought that Peter Vars's letter and the Wickham's letter were excellent in the amount of detail that they provided. That I'm in agreement with you that, and I'm sure the board is as well, that through dialogue you kind of get there, right?
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of excitement about mixed-use development. I think everybody that I'm working with is excited about it. They want to do it. They want to make this work. But there's been some painful experiences along the way. And I think, I would love to see people not need to hire me, truthfully. I'd like to see things go smoother so that I don't get a call that says, we've been at this for 8 months, help, we don't know what to do next, so.
And what I hear is we're getting closer, not quite there yet.
So, I think it's got a ways to go, personally, but I will get my, my comments and talk to Peter again. I have a lot of questions about how some of these provisions really will work. I think some of them, I question whether they will actually interfere with the, realistic development potential. The market is also a factor. There's just a lot that goes into play, that comes into play in trying to achieve something that is, going to be successful. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any questions for Betsy before she steps away?
I think Council, I think we look forward to seeing those comments so that we can review them and consider during work session. And Ms. Ivers, I did not locate a copy of the draft online also, so.
Yeah, I'm communicating with the website folks so they can make sure it gets up and it's easy to find. I couldn't locate it either. It's not the place where I anticipated it would be.
Okay, so I mean, we have your contact, so
Yep.
if we can just get a
Yeah,
copy
I know
and-
there's quite a few people looking for it,
Yep,
so.
I will
Yeah.
be happy to send out the link once I know where it lives on the website.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak to this application, this hearing? All right. I do not see anyone online or on the phone, so as I told Ms. Brugg, I am going to leave this public hearing open. There will be many more opportunities, I think, for the public to comment. You can please write to us, you can send us an email, you can also call and submit something through our website as well. So those are all ways that you can comment and on this project. So again, we are committed to trying to do the very best we can with redoing the code and the design manual, or the mixed-use manual, so we continue to work towards it. Thank you. Moving on to public hearing number 4.
Okay, this is a continuation of the public hearing from November 16th, and that was to consider a proposed local law to amend Chapter 250 of the Penfield Town Code zoning and land use to revise the fence regulations contained in Section 250-7.1 and modify and add new definitions in Article 2, terms defined. And at that point, we had published it in the paper on November 2nd. It was on the website then and published, or put on the bulletin board, the town clerk bulletin board, where it continues to remain. And no postcards were mailed because it's a townwide action.
Thank you very much. If you would like to speak to this application, you can contact us at 340-8771, or you can reach us online at penfield.org. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this application? Okay, Carrie, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, the revised regulation, or revised draft local law is available on the website. The changes that were made to the draft are identified clearly, so people can see where the changes were made. So that's really where this stands.
Okay. Any other questions from board members? All right, that said, I'm not seeing anyone online or on the phone, so I'm going to declare this public hearing closed, and this will return to an upcoming work session for discussion by the board. Okay? Moving on, we are coming to our first public participation portion of this evening. You can reach us at 340-8771 or at penfield.org, or you can be here in person. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on any matter? I do not see anyone online or on the phone. There will be an additional public participation session at the end of this meeting, so we'll move on to any additions and deletions to the agenda. Okay. Approval of minutes from November 2nd, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Kohl with a second by Councilperson Lee. And if there are no questions or concerns, we can have a roll call vote.
Cinti?
Aye.
Drawe?
Aye.
Kohl?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Ockenden?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you. Additionally, we had some tabled minutes from October 19th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second those.
We have a motion by Councilperson Ockenden and a second by Councilperson Drawe. Are there any questions? I believe you did check into the wording.
Yeah, so I was going to mention that the revisions that you had requested have in fact been revised. They are on the website. They were both kind of clerical in nature, and so they have been fixed for the purposes of accurate minutes.
Thank you very much. All right, roll call vote.
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Is the town clerk or any town board members in receipt of any petitions?
No, ma'am.
All right, then we'll move right into our resolutions by function.
Appointment of Deputy Receiver of Taxes.
So moved.
Second.
So now therefore be it resolved that the town of Penfield hereby appoints M&T Bank, 3 City Center Suite 700, 180 South Clinton Avenue, Rochester, New York, as Deputy Receiver of Taxes for the town of Penfield. Be it resolved that this resolution appoints M&T Bank Deputy Receiver of Taxes effective January 1, 2023. And I believe they've been our Receiver of Taxes for many years.
Yes. All right, with a motion by Councilperson Drawe and a second by Councilperson Kohl, may I have a roll call vote?
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Budget transfers for the general fund.
So moved.
Second.
So whereas transfers of funds are necessary for anticipated expenditures and reconciliations as the year end approaches, and whereas the town board desires to have an up-to-date budget in relation to the current income and expenditures. So therefore now be it resolved that the attached 2022 budget transfers be approved. And they are in the amount of $8510 from auto insurance, building full-time employees, assessor of miscellaneous, and they go to municipal insurance, multi-peril insurance, fire marshal seasonal employees, and postage. And that is for the figure of $8,510. And thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilperson Drawe and a second by Councilperson Lee. Roll call vote.
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Budget amendment in the intensified lighting fund.
So moved.
Second.
So whereas an amendment in appropriations in the intensified lighting amount is necessary as the year end approaches, and whereas the town board desires to have an up-to-date budget in relation to the current income and expenditures. So now therefore be it resolved that the following 2022 budget amendment be approved. And that is for revenue of $6,000 in the intensive lighting appropriated fund balance, going into $6,000 going into the intensified lighting electricity. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilperson Drawe and a second by Councilperson Ockenden. If there are no questions, we can go to a roll call vote.
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for 2-year renewal with the New York State Municipal Workers' Compensation Alliance.
So moved.
Second.
So whereas the town has been a member of the New York State Municipal Workers' Compensation Alliance since 2017, whereas the town of Penfield has thoroughly analyzed the proposal with support from our insurance consultant for renewal periods 1/1/2023 through 12/31/2023 and 1/1/2024 through 12/31/2024, and it has concluded that it would be in the best interest of the town of Penfield to accept a 2-year renewal proposal totaling $543,160, payable in 8 quarterly payments of $67,895. This is a $20,099 annual decrease from the previous 2-year agreement. So now therefore be it resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized to accept and execute this 2-year proposal for the workers' compensation coverage with the New York State Municipal Workers' Compensation Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion on the table by Councilperson Drawe with a second by Councilperson Kohl. I do want to mention that this is the 3rd straight annual decrease in workers' comp because of our safety record. There is a direct correlation between us having a good, safe work environment and workers' comp. So I appreciate all the efforts made by town staff.
Wonderful.
Okay. If there are no questions, we can vote.
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign a collective bargaining agreement.
So moved.
Second.
So whereas the Town and the Civil Service Employees Association, CSEA, have negotiated employment terms in good faith in order to finalize a successor agreement. So whereas as a result of these negotiations, both parties have reached and agreed to a tentative agreement effective January 1, 2023 through December 31st, 2026. So now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the town supervisor to sign a collective bargaining agreement between the town and the Civil Service Employees Association Incorporated, pending town attorney and counsel to the town attorney approval and ratification by CSEA membership vote. And I'd like to give a special thanks here for this. I was honored to be a part of this this group in looking at this the collective bargaining agreement for the DPW here in the town of Penfield. And I want to give a special thanks to Tracy Easterly, our Director of Personnel, and Barb Chirdo, the Director of Finances, for all the work that went into this, as well as others, yourself too, Madam Supervisor. So it was I think this is a really wonderful agreement for us and for the town as well.
Okay. If there are no questions, further comments or questions, we do have a motion by Councilperson Drawe and a second by Councilperson Lee. Okay. And a vote, please.
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Approving the Town of Penfield 2023 fee schedule for various departments and applications.
So moved.
Second.
So whereas the town board is authorized to set and amend fees from time to time, and whereas the town staff prepared revised fee schedules for the following departments: building and zoning, developmental services, planning and engineering, public works, recreation, and town clerk. Whereas these updated fee schedules ensure that the town of Penfield remains competitive with similarly sized communities within Monroe County. And whereas the town board has reviewed and said recommendations and concurs with the recommended fees, which are here attached here too. So now therefore be it resolved that the attached fee schedules are established and made effective January 1, 2023. And we discussed this at a number of work sessions, and I'd like again to thank all the department heads that with their follow-up, that answered our questions and concerns, and this will make us very compatible and transparent, fair with our fees going forward here in the town. And as attached to this is attached to this resolution is all the different department fee schedules for anyone to take a look at. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion by Councilperson Drawe with a second by Councilperson Ockenden. If there are no questions, we'll move right to a vote.
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Roadway dedications for 2022.
So moved.
Second.
I will, I'll note that this is being proposed by myself as liaison to the Public Works Committee. It's appearing on the agenda as myself, but it's authored under Councilwoman Drawe. So I will go ahead and read that, though, as liaison to the committee. Whereas the following developers, owners have made application to the Highway Department of the Town of Penfield for the final dedication of town highways in the Town of Penfield as noted in the following and described more fully on the subdivision plat maps listed below, which have also been approved by the Board of Jurisdiction and have dedicated and released the necessary lands owned by them for the proposed highways. First, Redstone Builders at Crown Point, a portion of Tall Castle Lane, and second, 104 Contractors for Ariana Way and a portion of Robert Michaels Run. Now therefore be it further resolved that the town board hereby accepts dedication of the roads or portions thereof as described herein, and all in accordance with Section 171 of the Highway Law of State of New York.
Thank you very much. We have a motion by Councilperson Lee and a second by Councilperson Ockenden. This is routine maintenance we do to do these roadway dedications. They come up about once a year. So if there are no questions.
Councilperson Lee, I will make sure that the author of this resolution will make sure their template is correct, and I will correct this for you.
Thank you. And it's actually better for me to be called Drawe anyway. So.
But you look so different, each of you. Okay. Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Advertising for bids for the purchase of LED streetlight products and materials.
So moved.
Second.
And I will note for this resolution, 253 and 254, I will read into the record that these are for the 2023 bids. I believe there
Yeah.
are errors in both.
Yep.
Be it resolved that the Director of Public Works be authorized to advertise in the manner prescribed by law for sealed proposals to furnish the town of Penfield with the following, or with the purchase of LED streetlight products and materials. Now therefore be it further resolved, the service contract shall be in accordance with specifications prepared by the Director of Public Works. Sealed proposals are to be received in the office of the town clerk until January 6th, 2023 at 11 a.m., and there and then to be open and read publicly by the town clerk.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilperson Lee with a second by Councilperson Drawe. And again, will this be corrected also for any documents that go out?
Same author for all three of them, and I will make sure that that person is able to fix their templates, and I will correct these tomorrow.
All right, so you're going to speak sternly to them, right?
Got to be very stern.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Advertising for bids for the installation services of LED street light products and materials.
So moved.
Second.
Be it resolved that the Director of Public Works hereby be authorized to advertise in the manner prescribed by law for sealed proposals to furnish the town with installation services of LED streetlight products and materials. Now therefore be it further resolved, the service contract shall be in accordance with specifications prepared by the Director of Public Works. Sealed proposals are to be received in the office of the town clerk until January 6th, 2023 at 11 a.m., and there and then to be opened and read publicly by the town clerk.
Thank you, Councilperson Lee, and with that, for moving that with a second by Councilperson Kohl. And a roll call vote.
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Reestablishment of Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Whereas the Town of Penfield's Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee was abolished in 2012, and whereas the community has grown significantly since 2012, and whereas the Town of Penfield has a need for updated recreation facilities to keep up with the town's growth, and whereas the Town Board believes it's necessary to reestablish the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee and direct that committee to receive and compile resident comments and recommendations about the town's Penfield's management of its parks, recreation facilities, and properties, including the recently acquired Shadow Pines property, and make recommendations to the town board regarding the town of Penfield's parks and recreation facilities and properties. Be it resolved that the town be, and therefore thereby reestablishes the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. Further resolved that the committee will be made up of a chair and 7 members appointed by the town board. Be it resolved, the town board will appoint members to the committee to begin in January 2023.
Thank you very much. Motion by Councilperson Kohl, the second by Councilperson Lee. I do want to mention that there will be an advertisement seeking resumes of those who are interested, so please watch for that on our town website if you would like to serve on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. So thank you very much, and a roll call vote, please.
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you. That concludes our resolutions by function. Before we move into old and new business, I do want to just mention that we have an upcoming second public participation session. If you would like to reach us by phone at 340-8771 or through our website at penfield.org, that will be upcoming. I now ask the board if there is any old business. Seeing none, is there any new business? Okay. I do not see anyone online or on the phone, so I will close this public participation session. There is no executive session this evening. Our next legislative meeting will be January 4th, 2023, which is by tradition our organizational meeting. Before I sign off, I do want to thank PCTV, also Steve and Greg, who have helped with security throughout the year. And I'd also like to extend a thank you to Deputy Supervisor Debbie Drawe, who will be in my place, taking on the day-to-day responsibilities of the supervisor. I am taking an 8-week leave of absence to care for an ill family member. So I wish everyone a very happy and healthy holiday season. Thank you. We stand adjourned at
7:57.
7:57 p.m. Thank you.